Welcome to the Dr. Diane Show, where we explore revolutionary expansion of mind, body, and soul with me, Dr. Diane Hayden. With over 20 years of expertise as a mindset warrior, perspective shifter, and unshakable optimist, I am dedicated to helping you reach your wildest dreams in business, health, performance, and relationships. Learn about the power of thought and how it shapes your life to take risks, change careers, find love, go on adventures, and live passionately with me, Dr. Diane. Get ready for revolutionary ways of thinking, being, and creating an amazing life. The Dr. Diane Show starts now. Hello, everyone. I am Dr. Diane Hayden, and you are listening to the Dr. Diane Show on Transformation Talk Radio. Stay with us for the next hour, where we will explore revolutionary expansion of mind, body, and soul. Each time in the show, we have experts from around the country discussing cutting-edge topics on longevity medicine, natural health, mindset, and soul purpose to help you shift your perspective and become a mindset warrior like me. I'm excited today to have with me Kelly McCarthy. She is a soul reader and energy guide, and she integrates ancestral wisdom and intuition with quantum physics and universal laws to expand awareness and foster heart-brain coherence for personal and professional growth. So welcome, Kelly. How are you today?
I am fantastic. Thanks so much for having me, Diane.
Awesome. So I like to start my shows off because I have such really unique, interesting, fascinating guests on all the time. By just talking about like your journey. I mean, how did you get to where you were, get to where you're doing what you're doing now? And I know, you and I know each other really well. I know about your background and what you used to do in your former life in this lifetime. But tell us kind of what led you, like, was there some pivotal moment that happened to you that kind of took you off of one path and into what you're doing now?
Absolutely. So as a former pastry chef and restaurant owner, which is so far different from where I am now, I was working 7 days a week, up to 90 hours a week. I had 2 small children, constantly overstimulated, had no way of understanding what my needs were in that lifetime, my past life, so to speak. And literally what happened to me is I had what the medical world would call a breakdown, but really what it was a breakthrough. It was a tap from the universe to let me know that there was a whole different way to live. And even though that tap took a good year for me to fully incorporate and embody what that change fully meant, meaning I had to go through the experience of having medications and really getting to that rock bottom to then be able to bounce back and move forward into my new world. So that's really what happened to me was that existential tap of saying, hey, Kelly, this is not the life you were meant for. This is the expectations you were living for someone else. And now it's time to make those changes and live a different world.
So do you think that you always knew you were intuitive or more intuitive than the average person? Or did you have any inkling that you're doing this job as a pastry chef? I mean, it's like, wait, I actually think I'm an intuitive, or I know I'm an intuitive, or I get messages. How did that happen?
Well, what I can say is when I was a small child, I remember having full-on conversations with animals. I knew very early on that I had this connection. And it was literally visible to others because they could see that the animals were actually corresponding to what I was saying. So even though they couldn't hear the conversation, there was definitely proof in some way. But unfortunately, because of our conditioning in the way that we're raised, in the way that, we are imprinted by all the beliefs around by other people, I really kind of pushed that down. I didn't believe in it. I didn't trust in myself. And of course, life got busy, right? I was just doing what I needed to do to get through the next day, having every experience I needed to have. And it wasn't until that breakthrough where I really learned to tap within that my shamanic gifts that I was born with, and we're all born with these, we're just conditioned to forget these over time. So it wasn't until I learned to really go within that I retapped, I remembered these gifts, and then they just started to flourish. And they continue to grow to this day.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people out there potentially like you that are doing some sort of a more mainstream, we'll call it, career, or something that their parents wanted them to be, or they thought they had to be, but they have these like this whole other life almost that is maybe what they feel they should step into, but they're not ready. They're, not sure it's real, like all of that. So I think what we're going to talk about today is going to be really enlightening for a lot of people. And I think give people like a lot of courage to do what you did.
Well, thank you. I think so too. I think we all, and here's what I've learned the most in my journey is not everyone. Thank you. I don't know if you heard that, but my rain stick just started going off.
Oh,
and that's
funny.
one of my guides just coming in and saying, hi, we're here with you today. So what I wanted to say was not everyone is meant to change. Not everyone is meant to remember. And the reason being is we need that contrast. And I've come to realize throughout my entire life that I had to experience every single thing that I did to become who I am today. So once you can get to a point in your life where you absolutely do not regret one thing and you don't want to go back and change anything, you've come to a whole nother way of being and a whole new way of understanding. But I also know that, again, not everyone is meant to do this shift because we as practitioners, as people who are becoming more aware and remembering, we need that contrast to show us what it would look like in our own world if we chose not to continue to grow. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah. And also, I think some people still have to do the regular jobs, right?
Absolutely. We need
and
those
they're meant to. Yeah.
Exactly. And here's the thing. Everybody has gifts. And for some people, it is being the CEO. For some people, it is managing our money. For some people, it is, getting rid of the garbage. And your gifts are what they are. It doesn't matter whether you're a CEO or a janitor. It's the intention and the energy that you put into what you do. So if you can find something that you love, no matter what it is, I say go for it.
Right. So you talk about how you were living unconsciously.
Yes.
And so, first of all, what does that mean? I think some people might be like, well, what does it mean? She was unconscious, like she was in a coma or...
No, I was living in survival mode. I didn't know there was another way. So literally, when I say I was living unconsciously, I was living by the habits and the patterns that I had created or that were created for me in these beliefs that I carried. So I didn't know that there was anything more than getting up, doing the same routine, coming home, putting the kids to bed. Like, I didn't know that there was more than that. I thought, well, this is just the way it is. This is life. But when you go within and you learn about yourself, wow, does that open up a whole different way of understanding? And when I say it was unconscious, I didn't realize that I get to create my own world through my feelings, through my thoughts, through my actions, that life isn't happening to me. It's not even happening for me. And that was the life that I used to live. I always thought that it was because of something. I was happy in moments because I was experiencing something outside of myself to bring me happiness, or I was sad because this happened. I didn't realize that it was the energy within me that created each and every moment. So when I learned how to harness my own energy and not necessarily react to what was going on outwardly, and instead learn to be with me in the present moment as often as possible, that created a whole new personality, which in the end creates a whole new personal reality, right?
Right. Yep. So what were some of I'm imagining that there's a lot of challenges that you face going from living unconsciously to being more of your authentic self. What were some of those?
Absolutely. So, look, the outside world triggers us every single day, right? It is an absolute mirror. But what I finally learned was that I had to live more in a neutrality type of way. But at the time, I was still attached to there was good or bad, right or wrong. I was attached to other people's beliefs. I was attached to my own beliefs. And people would come into my world and trigger me in all kinds of ways, showing me, my own emotions and how to navigate them. So this journey isn't linear. I still have this today, Diane. You don't get to a place. We never get this finished. We never complete. There is no destination learning, right? There is no end, right?
Right.
So in its human experience, it's literally learning to sift and sort through all of these experiences to know what you don't want, to know what you do. But in my world, I took everything so seriously and so literally that it was really hard to understand that I got to create what I really wanted. I still had that life is happening to me. So in the restaurant world, a perfect example was I had a big scarcity mindset when it came to money, because I attached my business to an outward experience, meaning, well, I own a restaurant, so people need to come into my business to create that income. What I didn't realize was that the feelings that I had towards my business, the energy that I chose to put into it and around it would actually bring more people in. So the scarcity mindset is a big one with a lot of people because we're taught to believe before we actually see, or we're taught to see before, you know what I mean? Like we have to see it to believe it. So for me, I had to learn, and it's a like I said, it's not linear. You just keep going over and over and over in trying to understand this better.
Yeah. You brought up sort of the scarcity mindset. I think that's I think a lot of people are stuck in that.
Yes.
And I think it's hard for people to understand how does what I think really affect what happens on a day-to-day basis?
Oh, it's so huge. I mean, it's so huge. And I think for me, one of the things that I did with money, because people don't understand that money is energy, right? They see it as a physical product of something. It's tangible. And in the quantum field, you can't live that way. So for me, what I had to do was, instead of saying spend my money, because spend means it's gone, I had to start looking at it as I'm recycling it. The money that I put out is then helping this person to, send their kid to ballet class or whatever it was. So I had to put the good energy into it. Instead of seeing it as a loss, I changed my mindset into a gain. I'm passing it. I'm helping. I'm having it go around. And before you know it, that money comes back to you. And so every piece that I sent out, I specifically would say thank you. Like, as I handed it to someone, I had the mindset and said, thank you. When I was writing checks back in the day when we wrote checks, I used to write thank you in the memo saying, I asked for this service. This shouldn't be a burden. I should be in appreciation and grateful for the service that I asked for. So changing your mindset around it was really, really important for me to get there.
Right. Because when you're angry about basically writing the check or paying the vendor, for the service that you did, that sends a negative. That's like saying, well, I'm mad that I have to put this money out. And so basically I could see how that would be stopping money from coming back.
Yes.
Right. Like, it's just that I'm angry about having to do this or putting this money out. So money is not going to come back to me because I don't feel like it's safe or I trust that if I put this out, it's going to come back. And I think it's that's a hard lesson for a lot of people, because you have to actually have the experiences, I think, to really fully trust that it will come back. So I love our discussion so far. You're listening to the Dr. Diane Show with me, Dr. Diane Hayden. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we will explore more with Kelly McCarthy, Soul Reader and Energy Guide. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. We're back on the Dr. Diane Show with me, Dr. Diane Hayden. But before we continue, I want to make sure everyone knows how to contact me. You can find me at www.drdianehayden.com or at either of my two publications, www.naturalnutmeg.com and www.essentialnaples.com. And you can learn more about Kelly McCarthy at her website, which is www.beyondwordsandwisdom.com. And that's spelled BEYONDWORDSNWISDOM.com. So before we just went to break, we were talking about just the scarcity mentality and how difficult it is for people to trust that, putting money out is going to bring money back to them. And I was saying to you, like, I think it's hard until you actually have the experience, right? Like that you did it in a way that like in a gratitude way, and then you actually saw the money come back to you.
Yes, and I fully agree with that. But again, once you look at it as you are getting something for this, people get so mad that they like, here's a perfect example. I used to get really upset when I had to pay taxes. Like I would get really upset. And then there was a time where I was getting, refunds back. And there was this, oh, wait a minute. If I'm getting a refund back, wait, what? And then I had to start paying taxes again. I was actually thrilled to pay taxes because it meant that my business was doing really well. Like, do you see the difference? Like I went from I was paying, then I wasn't paying, and then I was paying. And I was so grateful to be back to paying because it meant that I was doing well. Some people get really upset about the money that they're putting out, forgetting that there's more to it than that. And a lot of people have money blocks because of the way that they were raised. Right. So you have to really work with that. But the more that you can live in a state of appreciation for all. And here's the other thing. Look at all the stuff around you. People are like, oh, I have no money. I'm broke. I'm like, look around your house. Look at all of the things. That is all a form of abundance that you paid for with money. So
right. We forget
you're never lacking. There's no lack. You just chose to spend it. Or in my case, I used the recycle word, like it came back to me, because recycling feels better than spent, because spent is done, it's gone. But if you recycle something, it has the ability to come back in a new form. So that's right. The way I looked at money, is it's always coming back in a new form. It just might not be a paper form that you're used to. So it's really about the mindset.
That's true. It's also what do you value, right? Like money doesn't necessarily just mean the paper that we buy things with. It's all like it could be value, the energy and what we value. And I think a lot of people are so caught up in, like if you have so many things, like if you choose to spend your money on a lot of things, let's say, and then you're all constantly like looking around and worrying about money. I mean, to me, you need to take a look at what are you spending your money on and what do you really value, right? Like I got away from the material things a long time ago because I realized that what I value are experiences. Like I will spend a ton of money on travel and doing things like that, or an experience, then give me this thing, like this piece of jewelry or, whatever. Like, so I think it's from time to time, we need to go back and look at do we really want what we're buying? I guess that's the flat out question, right?
You have to remember too, Diane, that a lot of people are buying things to fulfill a void within them that it isn't fulfilling. So they keep going out and purchasing more and more, thinking, oh, well, if I just have this, it's that mentality of keeping up with the Joneses. It's that mentality of, the more that you have, the more quote unquote successful you look to the outside world. But it seems to happen naturally as we age that doesn't matter as much. We realize, because we remember as we get older, because of the circle of life, we're getting closer to our, human end. So we're coming back to what's truly important. So as people age, that materialistic stuff, people start releasing. They're realizing, wow, I took all this time to try to keep up with other people. I fulfilled my house with all this stuff, and it doesn't even mean anything, right? Yeah. So I think there's a lot of that people are trying to fulfill some kind of void within them. But if we learn to go deeper, you don't need to put your money out there in those kinds of things. Right. I think there's also a big part of there's only so much out there, and I need to get my piece of the pie. And that's just simply not
scarcity.
True. Right. That's the scarcity. Yeah. Like people see other people that have a lot and they're like, oh, why aren't they giving more? Why aren't they donating? Well, wait a minute. What? They don't have to, but they have a mindset that attracts that income, that abundance. You can too. Stop blaming someone else for your inability and let them live their lives as they do. There's never not enough. There's more than enough for everyone. You just have to get out of your own mindset to create that for yourself.
Yeah, totally. I wanted to also go back to you mentioned earlier triggers. Like, what do you think? We're triggered every day, right? By things, by people, that kind of thing. Yeah. And it's an opportunity to it's an opportunity to decide how you're going to react to that or not react, right? It's an opportunity to manage your emotions around it. And so my question to you is, and the last one is, well, there's probably more, but what's just coming to mind is it's an opportunity to figure out why you're being triggered, right? And I think that's the one that's the hardest, because people, like, let's say somebody triggers you, like a coworker, or your mom or something like that. And I remember when I was going through a lot of coaching and doing, a lot of spiritual work, I was told, well, the person who's triggering you is the one that you have the biggest lesson to learn. And it's probably because there's something about them that you have in you. Now, you might disagree with that, or you might agree. So that to me was like, oh my God, if this person triggers me, is making me crazy. Yep. It's because there's nothing like I'm nothing like them, and that's why it's making me nuts. So how would you explain that? And then how do you help people understand why they're being triggered?
Right. So triggers are often the mirrors, right? The stuff that we don't want to see in ourselves. But what I usually say about triggers, if somebody is triggering you, it's usually because that is the deepest wound in your life that you need to heal. Right. And this is a lot. And this is so funny we're talking about this, because I actually just had this experience today and was talking to one of my friends about one of my biggest triggers. And one of my biggest triggers happens to be my daughter. And the reason being is that oftentimes I'm seeing, for her, the way that she treats me at times opens up this wound of me being neglected or ignored or not seen as a small child myself. Right. And I didn't realize that until actually today, that our constant combat with one another is literally because she, to me, shows that wound of myself not being seen. And I think this is a lot with a lot of people when it comes to triggers. But what we have to be willing to do is look within ourselves and really say, what is this causing? One of the biggest triggers out there right now is politics. Look at this, right? Everybody wants to be seen. Everybody has an opinion, but everybody's opinion, everybody's perception is specifically that. It's a perception of an experience they've already had. And because we have narrow pathways connected to different people and different experiences, anytime we come up against something like that, it's going to trigger that emotion in us again. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. So to help people out of that, we have to notice, what is it? What's the feeling? Where is it in your body, first and foremost? Where are you feeling this trigger? Some people get a lump in their throat, which usually means that they're unable to speak their own truth. Some people get them in their solar plexus, which is like your own inner power, right? So one, you really need to locate where that sensation is in your body and go from there, because that your chakra system can tell you a lot. But if somebody isn't at that stage of understanding yet, we kind of have to go back to, okay, let's just pause. Let's take a moment and let's really look at, what is this bringing up for you? What emotion is this bringing up for you? Is it anger? Is it sadness? Is it loneliness? So people don't necessarily want to look that deep into their own stuff, because that's the shadow side, right? But when we are able to look at that shadow side, our entire lives can change, and we can learn how to not immediately react and know that the more energy we put into something, anytime somebody's triggering you, it has nothing to do with them. It has to do with you. There is nothing about that other person that has anything to do with anything. That is a time for you to look at you and your own stuff. People like to constantly blame other people for how their reaction is. Oh, you voted for this person. Oh, you did. It's all nonsense. It's all in those moments that you have the opportunity to go back in and deal with your own stuff.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that exact situation happened to me with me and my mother, actually. There for a long time, we would butt heads about everything. She was very she still is, which is so funny, but it's interesting to see like how the dynamic changed between us. Yeah. But she's a very like nervous person and fearful person. She doesn't like to travel. The world's not safe. Like, you know what I mean? Like the sky is falling constantly. And I'm the complete opposite of that. Like I'll go here, there, everywhere. I'm like optimistic, blah, blah, blah. And it would make me so angry that she was like that, like closed and always so fearful. And it's funny because I don't know that I could put my finger on what happened, other than I'll say this: when she fell and broke her hip and I was spending like a lot of time with her, I started to see what she was saying from a different place. Like now it wasn't about me. It was that, oh, she's fearful because she's losing her independence. You know, she has to be in this rehab place for 3 weeks. And I could actually like kind of step out. It was like this weird experience I had where I was like stepping outside of my body. Yes. And just observing her like as a stranger, as if I like didn't even know her. And I was able to just not get triggered at all by it and kind of be like, wow, you know, I feel, you know, sad for her that that this is her experience of life, that the 90 years, this has been her experience of life, basically. And how much time does she have left? And I'm not going to spend the little time she has left getting triggered and getting into an argument with her and getting all like frustrated about the way she is. This is the way she is. This is her life. I can't do anything about it. I can't change it. And so I'm going to separate myself from it. Yes. And it was a pretty wild experience. But now we have an amazing relationship. And she says the stuff she still said that used to make me crazy. It doesn't even bother me anymore. It's like, wow, this is really awesome.
Well, because you've gone past that and you see her in her wholeness instead of seeing what she's lacking, you're able to see all of her and love her anyway. You're loving her as she needs to be loved instead of the way you think she needs to be loved.
Exactly. Yeah, I love that. So we're going to take another quick break. You're listening to the Dr. Diane Show with me, Dr. Diane Hayden. We will be right back talking with Kelly McCarthy. Stay tuned. We're back on the Dr. Diane Show with me, Dr. Diane Hayden. I am talking today with Kelly McCarthy, and you can learn more about her at her website, www.beyondwordsinwisdom.com, and it's spelled BEYONDWORDSNWISDOM.com. So I want to just repeat again what you said right before we went to break, because it was like, I was like, yes, that's exactly it. You said that I learned to love my mother the way she needed to be loved instead of the way that, I forget the rest of it, but the way that I wanted to love her or I was choosing to love her.
The way you thought she needed to be loved.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah.
So in other words, you realize that you don't need to change her to love her. It's okay for her to be exactly as she is. And that is honestly where I am right now with my daughter, is even though we are completely different, I am learning to love her in her wholeness, you know, forgive myself for the mistakes that I made raising her, because now I know better, right? And I would have done things differently. But I also know that every single experience she had to go through and we had to go through together will bring us to exactly where we need to be. So there's nothing that I would change. But yeah, I'm in that same place of just having it be okay with her being so different from me and still being able to have that connection and just loving her in her wholeness instead of trying to change her or change anything about the relationship for us to be able to get along better. Does that make sense?
Yep, totally. And I want to ask one more question, then we're going to get into like how you work with your clients. But this just popped into my head, and I'm imagining that people, whenever that happens, like this is my intuition saying like someone wants to know the answer to this.
Yes.
Do you ever have you ever seen situations where you feel like the relationship or the trigger or whatever it is so detrimental, let's say, to one person in the relationship that you would say, there's something beyond this. It's not just about you looking at yourself and why you're getting triggered, but there's actually like such a negative energy to that relationship. And I'm talking about whether it's a love relationship or a work relationship or a parent relationship, that you would say like, you really need to create a boundary with this person because it's toxic. Like it's beyond just trying to learn about what the trigger is.
Right. Well, you have to remember, too, that even us going into relationships that are toxic or anything else has something to do with something we've learned or something we've witnessed ourselves. It's an automatic pattern that we live within. Right. So abusive husbands, or abusive wives or anything like that usually comes from some kind of past that was in that as well. So yes, I'm all for healthy boundaries. I'm all for keeping ourselves safe, but there is a reason why you keep repeating this pattern, which is why I always say to people, it's not about going back and trying to figure it all out, but it is about getting into the feeling of it and what is creating this pattern over and over and over again. And it's usually something like a lack of self-love, a lack of self-worth. There was something at some kind of childhood wound that is creating this. So it is still about looking back within. There is a reason you're repeating this pattern. There is a reason why you're attracting this kind of stuff into your world. But in my world, Diane, there is no good or bad or right or wrong. It's the energy that we're putting into it through our own perception and our own experiences that creates it such. Every single thing is teaching us something, even if it's, this is what I don't want, or this is not what I need or want, so that we can move into what we do.
Right. So even if, let's say somebody acts a certain way that drives you crazy, it's because you're perceiving it that way. Like you're making it mean something, meaning it drives you crazy.
Yeah. You are putting into it, you are being triggered by their behavior because it's something that has to do with you. It has nothing to do with them. So I do believe in healthy boundaries. I do believe that if there is a toxic relationship or something that doesn't feel right for you, even if it is about you, you still need to create space. I don't condone people staying in toxic environments, whether they are friendships, relationships, businesses, whatever it is. Get yourself out and work on you so that you can better react to situations like this moving forward.
Right. Yeah. Even when it's like a parent-child relationship.
Absolutely. Cut ties. Yeah. Cut ties. Do not allow yourself to be bullied or treated poorly, no matter what. Toxic is toxic. And I don't care if it's a perception of, they did wrong or it's a mirror of your own behavior. You have to separate yourself because you can't heal in the same place that you're broken.
Right.
So it's all about removing yourself from those situations and taking the time to work on you, because that's the only thing you can do. You can't change anybody else. You can't change an outer situation to make you feel better. You have to go within and make yourself feel better, because nothing outside of you is going to do that. It doesn't exist.
Right. Yeah. So what's the experience like when someone comes to work with you? Kind of just walk me through, like, how do you work? How do you decide what tools you're going to use with people? And tell me about that.
Yeah. So when people come and see me for what I call a universal energy session, what this is literally me helping you remember the being you were born as. Like I said, we all are born with shamanic gifts. So when people come to me, first and foremost, I explain the entire process, because I really believe that people need to have that information so that they're not just walking in blindly. So I usually spend a good 10, 15 minutes just talking about what's going to transpire during the session. And then what I do is I lead people through a very brief guided meditation to help them rest and relax into the space. And then it's very quiet and we're just sharing in that energy. And what is happening during that time together is I am connecting to the shamanic gifts they were born with so that they can actually experience them for themselves and receive downloads, receive clarification, receive, healing themselves. I'm not doing anything. I'm just a channel for this. So please don't put me on any kind of pedestal. I'm literally just holding the space for people to look in a mirror and remember who they were born as. And then what happens after the session, I lead people gently out of it. And from there, I ask permission to share all the messages that come through. And then we sit down and we have a conversation, and all the things that can come through for this are, ancestral fate. It could be your patterns, your personality type, whether you're a sun energy, a moon energy, and all these things mean things, but also your ancestor can come through. Animal totems can come through, angels can come through. And really what this is just giving you some information to help guide you on your path. But what I like to tell people is these are not infinite. This is not your destiny. What I'm doing is reading the energy of you and your core beliefs as you are in that moment. And again, reconnecting you to your true inner being to help steer you in the way that you are meant to go if you so choose. We all have free will. So some people, feel absolutely amazing. And within a few days, they can go back to exactly where they were, right? And for some people, this sticks and they continue on. And, 5 months later, they'll contact me and say, I am still flying high. I'm still doing this and I'm still doing this. And their conscious awareness opens up. But I always tell people I am not a one and done practitioner, meaning that I like to stay in contact with my people so that they know that they're not alone, that they know that it's not just this one session and then you're gone and you're over there going, well, now what? So people are constantly in, communication with me, telling me about the things that they're experiencing, and that helps build their confidence in using their own gifts. Right? Which I think is really important, is you can't just show people, you have to walk with them, beside them, so that they have that confirmation. So that's kind of what I do in one of those sessions.
Yeah, I think what's also great, like you said, is that you wrote an article about this too, is that you're not telling someone this is your fate. Like, this is what's going to happen to you no matter what you do because
right.
You're an Aquarius or you're, a Chinese zodiac sign or whatever.
It drives me nuts. I hear it all the time, and it's becoming more and more in our spiritual world. And it's really sad to witness that these soul readings that I have, people are coming to me and, I'm only going to have 2 loves my entire life. What? Who told you that? Or I am this because of this, where they get so caught up in this was my past life. Do you understand that every time you go back to that, you are becoming the frequency of that, whatever it was? And you are actually creating a story around that instead of connecting to your inner being. Nothing is written in stone. You get to create whatever it is you want. These things are meant to be guides for you, not solid proof that this is all you are. You're going to do this in life because this is your quote unquote human design. Or this is you because of your astrological chart. Or I hear it all the time. People are like, oh, it's because of Mercury retrograde. Well, yeah, if that's what you want to put out there, then yeah, this is exactly why it's happening. And we all do it. There are times where I've said it myself, oh, it must be Mercury retrograde, but I laugh because it's a joke for me.
Right.
For a lot of people attach themselves to all of these things, not realizing that they're creating their destiny around this stuff. You have to be really mindful of the way that you are speaking, not only to yourself, but the frequency that you are passing off to the quantum field, because it's always listening. It doesn't shut down. It doesn't shut off. So that's one of the things that as a soul reader and energy guide, I want people to know that you get to create whatever it is you want. I'm here to help guide that. I'm not telling you what is, I'm telling you what is right now in this moment.
Right. I love that. So how do you do that? I mean, how do you help people move from, understanding what their karmic fate might be to actively shaping their true destiny?
So really what it is again, having that open conversation about what's possible. I don't want to hear about your story. I don't want to hear about the victim. I'm not interested, because we all have a story. We all have trauma. And I understand that everything is a frequency. So if you're sitting in that space, you can't move. from that space. So from these learning experience, when we're talking about people's ancestral fate, I tell them, okay, and this is a perfect example. People have medical histories and they're like, oh, well, my mother had it, or my dad is this, so I am this. Who decided that? Like, hello, this is not what it has to be. You're choosing to be in this frequency. So what I want to know when people talk about their stories, I say, okay, let's stop with that. I want to know who you became. What did you learn? Where do you want to go because of this? So what that does is it helps people out of that lower frequency of despair or depression or feeling lost or stuck, because we're never lost, we're never stuck, we're energy, we're always moving. But get out of that frequency and find that hope. Find that. And even though hope is still a lower frequency, it's a higher frequency than despair. It's better than depression, right? I even want people to get angry, because anger is still a better vibration than being down in that low, oh, this is hopeless. So I want people to move and feel that movement. And once they start to feel the frequency, once they feel the difference, then you're on the playing field and all else is easy.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing for a lot of people today is that they don't even know how to feel.
Yeah. Well, and that's because you have to remember, generationally wise, many of us, especially if we're Gen Zers, we were never taught that. Right now, they have all these focus wheels and wheel charts of all these different emotions for kids. And I think for some of it, it might be getting a little bit too much. But with our generation and generations even, a little bit younger than us, we were never taught those emotions. We were taught to stuff them. We were taught, you're here to be seen, not heard, or, you're too dramatic, you're too sensitive, you're too this. So a lot of us just learned to push everything down. But when people learn what these emotions actually are, they can really transform and learn how to not react and be triggered. That's one of the reasons why so many of us get triggered so easily, is because we've never had these emotions before. We just turn everything to anger because anger is acceptable and it's easy to feel. And we know what anger is. But most of the time, under that anger is a deep loss or a deep sadness or a deep vulnerability. And somewhere along the line, somebody taught us that vulnerability is a weakness and not a strength. And it actually is our greatest strength, is to be able to share ourselves as we are and not give two hoots about what anybody thinks about how we feel, and instead just state how we feel and be okay with that. But everybody is in survival mode, right? Of fight or flight. Somebody is coming at us with this emotion. Oh, you're angry? Well, now I'm going to be angry. And all that does is create a bigger frequency around that emotion instead of getting to the core. So for me, I really want to work with people in where can we go from this spot? Let's not stay here. Let's not even talk about it. I don't want to hear your story. I want to know, who did you become because of this story? What did you learn? What's the gratitude? Where can you find the gratitude in that, no matter what the trauma is? Because I've had my level of traumas myself, and I've always been able to go back and say, ooh, this is a great exercise I do with my clients. I tell people, write out your story, whatever the trauma is. And now I want you to go back and I want you to look through it and see every single thing you can be grateful for in it. Like, who did you become? Rewrite your story, rewrite it.
Well, that's the whole thing, because you said earlier that, the universe is listening. I believe,
Absolutely.
If anybody's ever read the Biology of Belief by Bruce Lipton, your body is listening to you.
Absolutely.
So if you keep telling this story over and over again, you're basically rooting it deeper and deeper in your cells even.
Yes, you are going to a cellular level, and that you can't, like I said, you cannot heal from the place that you are broken. You have to move out of that energetic frequency and stop telling the same stories. How many times are you going to tell the same story about this one walked out on you? I mean, think about it. People are holding on to their stories from 20 years ago. How's your life been going? Like, you're not. I wonder why. You've been living in the story for 20 years. It
starts to define you. Yeah, it starts to define you, right?
Yes, it becomes your personality. Oh, why is this person always moody? Oh, I had this thing happen 20 years ago. Oh, okay, great. How about letting it go? Let's move forward and live the life that you're worthy of living instead of the one you hate that isn't, helping you in any way, shape.
So I bet you have a million client stories that you could tell us, but is there any one that comes to mind that really had an impact on you?
I will say this. I do not share my client stories with anyone. Anything that is shared in here is sacred space. So I always tell people, you are more than welcome to share your story, but it's not mine to share. I did have permission to share one. And so I can share this one with you, which I thought was quite profound. And it had to do with my animals, that this person came to my house, and my animals are usually the most loving, amazing animals. And she came into my house, and my Malinois, who is also part Ridgeback, came into like fight mode, like teeth gnarling, stuff coming. And I had never seen her like this before. And so I immediately took my dog and brought her to another room with treats, and she used my restroom. And then as we were leaving, I got her out of the house as fast as possible. And it was literally because of this incredible pendant of this phoenix that she was wearing that she was not ready to connect with yet. And It was something that her father made for her. And it was so powerful. And I didn't realize, and I will say this too, this is also a big part of it. As we were coming out of my house, my cat, who is also the most loving cat, ran under the deck in the biggest fear. And I was like, what is going on? And she looked at me, she goes, oh, there must be something on me or around me that they're picking up on. I'm like, absolutely. We come in here, she takes off her jacket, and here's this unbelievably huge, beautiful phoenix that her father, who was a jeweler, made for her. And it wasn't until I said, you can't wear this right now. This, you are not connected to this. So I asked her to remove it. I put it down by her feet as she was laying on the table. And during the session, we were able to help her connect to the energy of that phoenix, which she needed so much. It was a power animal that she really needed to step into. And then after the session was complete, she said, do you mind if I go back into your house and see how your animals are now? And I'm like, let's go. We walk into my house, and my dog just comes trotting along like nothing and just sat right down in front of her. And she was absolutely blown away. And my cat, same thing, was waiting by the back door and was just all over her legs, brushing up against her. And it was literally because my animals felt the frequency of her own fear, of her own disconnection to herself. But then after she was able to remember and reconnect, my animals were like, oh, hey, now you're in balance. And she actually asked me to share that story so that other people could actually see how frequencies affect our animals. Because oftentimes people think that our animals have behavioral problems. Oftentimes with the animal communication I do, I see it's actually the energy in the house or something that's going on with a person, and the animals are actually being affected by that. And it's not really a behavior.
Oh my gosh, how many times have you seen like a dog that has the exact same energy as the owner? I've seen that a million times.
And I've also seen animals that have actually taken on the illnesses of their owners in hopes of trying to pull it from them. Oh, wow. Or they're masking the illness of their owners at the same time because they're so empathic, because they're just merely frequencies. They don't have the ego that we do, and they don't have that kind of discerning thought. So they just feel into everything. Yeah,
that's wild. So I'm sure you have studied with a ton of people and, just had a lot of different experiences, but who are the mentors that you think have really shaped your journey and kind of influenced a lot of what you do with your energy work?
I would say that the first was reading the book, The Secret, that was introduced to me when I was part of an MLM company, and I read that. And from that, I learned of Michael Bernard Beckwith. And working with him as one of my first mentors, he was the one who said, Kelly, life isn't happening to you. It's not even happening for you. It's happening as you, through you. And I felt like The Secret was the crack of the door. Like it opened it, but it didn't go deep enough for me to fully connect. It gave me a logical understanding, but working with Michael, that really was the beginning. But then I was gifted with working with many people in my MLM company. So, working with people like Robin Sharma and Lisa Nichols and Jack Canfield, they started opening more and more doors. But now my favorites, like Dr. Wayne Dyer, he's one of my absolute favorites. Dr. Joe Dispenza. I mean, that man is just, a god in my eyes. Abraham Hicks, even Gabby Bernstein was, a part of my beginning journey because the way that she spoke was like in layman's terms that I could understand. So I think for everybody, it's very different. People are pulled to the energy that feels right for them, right? So for some people, it's Eckhart Tolle and Deepak. But for me, I like that science, because so many people are science brained and science is a big thing nowadays. So for me, Dr. Joe is probably my all-time favorite because he is that bridge between, the science backing everything and the metaphysical. And he puts it in a way that is very understandable and just easy to relate to. So by far, he's my absolute favorite mentor.
Yeah, he makes it like safe and relatable. I totally agree with that. I love The Untethered Soul, Michael Singer.
Yeah.
I think that book is one of the best books for people to read who believe everything they think.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like who get so wrapped up in their thoughts that they think their thoughts are real when, most of them are just nonsense that we think, the same thing get repeated day in, day out, whatever.
That those neural pathways.
Yeah, but that book for me was pretty amazing. It was like there was one sentence in there that he says something about like the maniac that's living inside the roommate that's inside your head is a maniac, and it could totally destroy your life if you let it.
I used to call it the drunken monkey.
Yeah.
It's like the drunken monkey who just took over, and I was like, wait a minute. Try to wrangle a drunken monkey.
Yeah, but it's so funny. Like when people are ready to hear that, they just are like, oh my God, like I never thought about the fact that half the stuff that I'm thinking, where did that even come from? Why am I even thinking that? It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, again, most of it is beliefs that we've been instilled by others, whether it's society, whether it's, our parents, schooling, whatever it is. I mean, there's constant stimulation, and even more so now. I feel for the generations that have constant social media presence. Literally their ability to focus is like not even 3 seconds anymore. So that stillness is really important. And I'm hoping that there comes a time where, I'm putting it out there, I'm manifesting it, I'm dreaming my world into being, and I'm hoping people will co-create with me that, mindfulness is more taught in schools when it comes to, learning how to tap. Meditation, yoga, it's not about the arithmetic and the reading. And those things are all really important, but stop telling history. Like, stop going backwards. Stop having people live in those frequencies. Let's teach them how to work in the now, how to be present and really live the life that they're so worthy of, because you can't change the past. So stop talking about it.
Yep. That's exactly right. So people can find you through your website, beyondwordsandwisdom.com. Is there anything else that you want to let readers know, let our listeners know about how to contact you or anything else?
Yeah, they can absolutely find me on Facebook or Instagram, just Kelly McCarthy. I'm really easy to find. You can even text me, 860-806-9684, or you can send me an email at kelly@beyondwordsandwisdom.com.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, this has been an amazing conversation. We could talk for hours, I'm sure. Yeah. I'll have to have you back for 15 more podcasts for sure. But I think, to me, what's really liberating is the fact that, once you realize that your thoughts aren't always real, it's freeing in a sense. It's like, oh, wow, like there's, I don't have to think this way. I don't have to be this way.
Yeah,
and
it's a choice.
Everything you said was amazing. Thank you so much for all of your awesome wisdom, just like your website, Beyond Words and Wisdom. And I appreciate you having you on. We'll have to do it again for sure.
Yes. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the time.
Awesome. I want to thank all of you for joining. Join me again the first and third Thursdays at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. Have a great week, and we'll see you back here next time. Thank you for tuning into the Dr. Diane Show, revolutionary expansion of mind, body, and soul with me, Dr. Diane Hayden. Tune in every Thursday at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern on transformationtalkradio.com. Center your thoughts on what you want and shut the door on every suggestion of fear, worry, or lack from your own consciousness or the consciousness around you. Once you master that, everything is possible. To learn more about me, Dr. Diane, and receive a free digital subscription of my magazine, visit naturalnutmeg.com.